Welcome back to Women's Strength and Bodybuilding. My name is Mark, and before we jump in, please like the video and subscribe as we're getting closer and closer to the Olympia. The IFBB Europa Pro just wrapped up this past weekend. So without further ado, let's jump into the top 5 in women's bodybuilding. In first place was Chelsea Dion, and it doesn't matter what I say because nobody is more in love with her than this guy.
I love you.
Can't blame the guy for trying, but settle down, dude. She's mine. All jokes aside, she looked really good here. Very dry, hard, and lean, with great back development. Her six-pack also looked really good here. She's definitely got some work to do though, because if you look at her in a couple of these poses, she doesn't really have the size, fullness, and symmetry to compete with the Andrea Shaws or Natalia Kovalevas. I'm particularly referring to her side chest pose. For the most part, it looks pretty good, especially the striations in her chest, but her arm development is a little bit off. The bicep is lacking that true peak like you see with the really old school bodybuilders. Shout out Kim Chizevsky. And then of course is the dreaded glutes and hamstring. They looked really good for what it is, but let's be honest, it's just not quite on that same level as the competition she's about to face. But all in all, I definitely agree with this guy's point of view. Go get him, Tiger. It looks like the rest of the top 5 could be mostly Masters age competitors. Forgive me if that's not the case. Sometimes it can be a little bit hard to tell. But I'd say that, in general, we're starting to see a lot more Masters age competitors in bodybuilding. And by Masters, I mean over the age of 40. It really seems like wellness is becoming the division that's attracting the young ladies in their 20s and early 30s. With Giselle Machado and Brianne Fogel in their 20s. And the current reigning Miss Olympia Franciela Matos coming in at 37. More and more we're seeing the age of bodybuilders getting pushed back further and further. And I'm just like, what's the thought process here? Is it that these women know how crazy the prep for these shows can be? So they want to have a family before they undergo what it takes to be a bodybuilder? Seems like a lot of these ladies start a family first, then do bodybuilding after. Or some of them could even be like Valerie Gange, who ended up getting pregnant in between shows. You take a look at what Masters competitor Kina Squarey is doing right now. And she's bringing conditioning in her 50s that was previously thought not possible for her age. What do you guys think? Do you think that specifically in women's bodybuilding we're seeing a lot more late 30s, 40s, and 50s competitors than most of the other divisions? Even if we are, it's not like I care. I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. In second place was Viktoria Knysh, and she brought some pretty big biceps here. Her look was further complemented by some pretty insane back shots, especially the rear lat spread. I would have liked to see more tightness and definition in the midsection, and maybe more overall size in the legs to match the upper body. One thing that's kind of beyond her control is the taper down the waist. I think she's a little bit shorter, so that makes it tough. But as it is, her midsection kind of makes her look a little bit more blocky. But all things considered, a well-deserved second place win. In third place was Jacqueline Fuchs, and she was pretty comparable to Viktoria in terms of size and conditioning. Her midsection was a little bit blurry, and I think she needs to draw more water out from her midsection as part of her prep. The midsection could be one of the most tricky areas, man. I'm telling you. She brought a lot of great vascularity in her side chest pose, but I'd say overall just a little bit more tightness and fullness in the muscles would really help her placings here. In fourth place was Julia Forey, and we covered her at another show earlier this year. It looks like her conditioning might have slipped a little bit. She definitely brought a great tan. It was rich in color and really made her upper body pop. What kept her from placing higher was the midsection and the glutes and hamstrings. She looked like she was battling some mild distension in the midsection in some of the transition poses. And from the back, you can see that her lower body really doesn't match the separation and dryness she had in her upper body. I hope she's able to regain the conditioning she brought earlier this year. And I think if she does, she'll do really well. Rounding out fifth was Virginia Sanchez, who you'll remember from my Olympia Masters video. In that video, I said I didn't even know she was still competing. And a lot of you mentioned in your comments that she should have been higher at that show. And I don't know, man. I might have put her higher at this show too. Maybe in third place, in front of Jacqueline and Julia. But then again, I wasn't there, so I can't say for sure. Maybe the judges aren't fans of her extreme look, so they placed her a little bit lower. She didn't quite match the same level of conditioning she brought to the Masters Olympia, specifically in the midsection, but was definitely on par. Might have even improved her tan a little bit. So I say congratulations to Virginia for coming back into the spotlight and doing it big. Okay, so that wraps up women's bodybuilding. Thanks so much for tuning in. We've got the Rising Phoenix coming up not this weekend, but the weekend after. I'm a 5-hour drive away from Phoenix, so maybe I'll see some of you guys there. Please like the video if you enjoyed it, leave a comment about what you think about the placings, and subscribe to keep it right here for more great women's strength and bodybuilding content as we're blasting off through the Rising Phoenix on our way to the Olympia.